Hello, everyone. I am Sasha Spector, professional services consultant here at Responsive. Today, we are diving into a topic that I'm sure many of you in attendance can relate to, the power of small but mighty proposal teams. We'll learn how small teams are not just surviving, but thriving despite increasing demands. And whether you come from a small team or a robust, well-oiled department, I'm sure you'll learn a lot from our guests today. As a former proposal manager who comes from a team of one, I now have the privilege of consulting with responsive clients in the proposal industry every day. And one of the things I love the most about my role is the opportunity to learn from those clients, especially those who consistently achieve incredible results with limited resources and come through bid after bid as strategic revenue generators in their organizations. I am thrilled to be joined today by two of those customers who have mastered the art of complex bidding. Brian and DeeAnn, thank you both so much for joining us. I would love to get us started just by hearing a little bit about your organizations and your respective roles. And Brian, if you wouldn't mind kicking us off, that would be awesome.
Sasha, I'm Brian Astman, Director of Business Development at the ACRT Services family of companies. We're an independent vegetation management consulting firm. We also own companies in the metering and line locating world as well as environmental. A little over 1,600 employees, and the proposal team consists of whoever's working on it that day.
So I'm DeeAnn Powers. I'm the Senior Manager of Operations for Invicti Security. I report into the Professional Services team. Invicti is headquartered in Austin, but we're a global company. We have about 300 employees worldwide in about 12 different countries. We have about 4,000 customers. Last year, we did a little over 430 RFPs. So if your eyes pop out at that number, mine did too. But we get them in all sizes. We'll get, a small kind of just few questions and your certifications, all the way up to, like a full SIG. So we kind of run the gamut there. I am a mighty team of one as well. We're typically two, but I'm currently back sourcing for a backfill for our second person. I've been in proposal management for about 3 years. Before that, I was a project manager for about 20, and then had plenty of proposal experience, kind of through that. Worked for a private equity owned financial services company.
Awesome. Well, Brian and DeeAnn, thank you both so much for being here. To get us started, I would just love to hear both of you talk a little bit about, what was your first day like when you joined the company? Can you paint a little picture for us?
So when I joined Invicti, we had one resource in overseas, and he had a giant Google sheet, and he would copy paste till his eyes bled. The poor guy, and then do his best with whatever wasn't in the Google sheet. So we had, so as you can imagine, we had some pretty significant issues with that. Like it's not very scalable, and when he needed to take time off, then everything kind of came to a screeching halt. And then not only that, but because you're copy and pasting all day long, your accuracy and excellence kind of starts to suffer, because it's just a grind. And so the effect of that, we were having some issues with not getting all of the RFPs. And so like we had some salespeople that just were like, okay, well, we're just going to do it. Kind of super scary mode, because you don't really know what's being said, if it's correct, and who is kind of telling what to whom. So that was kind of the state that we were in when I came in, and then of course I was charged to set up a process, find a tool, set up a process, and make it repeatable and scalable, and let systems do system things, and let people do people things, was really kind of what we set out to do.
At ACRT, when I walked in, there wasn't anything, right? There wasn't even a Google sheet um, that we could draw from. It was just, wait, what do? We got an RFP. It's 300 pages long. It requires tons of questions. It's going to pull everybody from directors all the way up off of their day-to-day job. And we're going to email everybody in the C-suite as well. There was absolutely zero plan in place is the bottom line. We're much further down the road than where we were almost 3 years ago now when I started. So yeah, there was nothing in place. So if you're sitting in that spot that you had nothing in place, responsive can get you to a spot of comfort at least.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, I'm sure many people on the call can relate to that wild, wild west scenario with no process, no tools in place. Thank you both for sharing. And it really sounds like at both of your organizations, you've encountered some of the biggest challenges that were highlighted in the recent State of Strategic Response Management report. In the report, respondents replied that the top 3 challenges they face include too few resources for the volume of requests, tight deadlines, and difficulty getting input from SMEs, subject matter experts. These challenges were reported by companies of all sizes, and so I'm curious, for a smaller proposal team, how do these resonate with you, and how has implementing a tool like Responsive made things more manageable? DeeAnn, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, it absolutely resonates with me on on many different levels. Um, we kind of set out to crack the SME nut first, so to speak, because I feel like timelines um, uh, timelines fall in line from there, right? Like if you can get the information you need in the most expeditious manner, then it's easier to meet a timeline, right? So for us, it became about making it easy, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but making it easy for subject matter experts to give us what we needed. So, for instance, Responsive has some incredible integrations with Salesforce and with Slack. And so we were just able to keep our subject matter experts working in the tools that they're comfortable working in. Um, so that was kind of thing one. Um, and then once we kind of solved for that, what we found was the other two kind of fell in line when we were just more efficient than our time. It was easier to meet our timelines, and we didn't need 8, 9, 10 people because we had a pretty efficient process doing the lion's share of the work for us. The other thing we did that was huge was we took a look at what are the repeatable things, what's the information that doesn't change, and how can I make that self-service for folks so they don't have to get in line, they don't have to Slack me individually, they can just self-serve the information that we have out there. So those few things kind of coupled together really helped us solve that, kind of do more with less, or do more with the same um, problem.
Sasha, for me, I'm reading through these 3 too few resources for the volume of requests. Like we don't have any resources that are dedicated to responding to RFPs or RFQs or anything along those lines. Right. So we had to make the best of everybody's time. Tight deadlines. Yeah. Sometimes we get one that says you have to do it in 24 hours. This would not have been possible um, previous to having responsive in place, right? Again, having the content at your fingertips, being able to pull everybody in to collaborate in one spot at the right now, it was something we didn't have. As well as, of course, that rolls right into getting those SMEs to speak and fill in their answers, their expertise. So yeah, I agree with those top 3, and we deal with the same thing. That's why you need a tool to make your life a little bit easier.
Yeah, it's really cool to hear how the integrations and the platform itself has made collaboration with SMEs more efficient for you guys. I know that's a major pain point for a lot of folks in the proposal industry. So that's music to my ears. Now, I'm curious, how has solving for these challenges impacted your organization, your department, and even your personal relationship to RFPs? What has it allowed you to do that you weren't able to do previously? DeeAnn, could you tell us a little bit about some of these challenges and what the benefits have really looked like for your team?
Yeah, so this is the fun part, right? Like when you solve for what's wrong, then you get to do the fun stuff. And my title is actually Senior Manager of Operations. That wouldn't have happened without Responsive. Um, when I was when I was hired, I was the technical program manager for the RFX desk, right? Um, but since implementing, and I am a mighty team of one, I am backfilling to so that we are a team of two. Um, but because we've done so many great things with Responsive, that's freed me up to take on other projects. So we have a help center, which is very similar to Responsive's Academy. And I manage that. Like my boss refers to me as the company librarian, right? So because Responsive is just such a dynamic tool, we're able to keep a lot of information in it. And it's allowed me to deliver that information to our customers in a new and exciting way. It's allowed me to deliver it to other internal stakeholders. Um, and the other thing is to really, it's enabled me to voice our value, right? A lot of times, you kind of get, you're kind of an afterthought, right? It's, oh gosh, we're just the paper pushers, right? Well, since I've had a little extra time and I'm a data junkie, just because I am, I've been able to, provide some great reporting back to the business. We'll probably get into that a little bit later. Um, but yeah, I mean, for me, it's been, I've been able to cross collaborate. I come from a project management background, so I have 20 years in project management. And so the company is now starting to utilize me in more of a cross collaborative kind of way to help manage projects kind of outside of my scope of role.
I love hearing about expanding the use case of responsive beyond proposal management. I think that is such a characteristic of teams that are innovative, small teams that are doing more with less. You're finding ways to expand the existing tools to create more access to knowledge in your organization. So that's a really wonderful use case. And thank you for sharing. Brian, what about you?
I would say we're going beyond that, and we're now using templates inside of responsive. So for areas that not necessarily have a ton of questions and answers, we at least now have a go into responsive, grab a template that has something to do with this specific service area that you can now use. And if you have to chase down, for a CIO for insurance or get pricing or whatever it is, at least you can grab the template or put all the collateral up into responsive.
Really cool. Thank you for sharing. Next question. So, in the 2024 State of SRM report that we were talking about earlier, we found that there seems to be a general disconnect between how leadership views strategic response teams and how bid and proposal teams actually feel. So, executives generally view bid and proposal teams as strategic business partners, which is great, but they don't realize that proposal teams actually lack visibility across the organization, often feel underappreciated, and are generally under-resourced. So, do either of you have any advice that you can share for smaller teams to really increase their leadership's awareness and, overall gain better visibility of your team's impact across your organizations?
Yeah, so I'll jump in. I think my best advice is do the math. Responsive has some great reporting, and start there. Like I said, I'm I'm a data junkie. If it can be measured, I will measure it. It's just kind of how I'm wired. Um, but seriously, start small. How many did you get? How long did it take? And what was the result? Right? It doesn't have to be any more complicated than that. But when you start speaking in that language, you do a couple of things. So one is you demonstrate that you know what's coming into and going out of your organization. You also demonstrate that you know what it takes to handle the volume that you're getting. And then third, it is the result of that. So I have a higher win rate than a lot of our sales staff. Just throwing it out there. Um, and I'm super proud of that. And it's taken a long time to get there, but I wouldn't know that if I didn't do the math. I wouldn't be able to put together a QBR every quarter that says, okay, here's how many we got, here's how long it took, and here's the result. I do have a full forecast that took a while to get to, but I'm actually able to forecast within about 5 to 10 RFPs, um, what we're going to get in any given quarter. And then based off that, I can say, okay, well, here's how long our time to complete is, and here's, oh gosh, I might need some help this quarter because we've got so many and there's only one of me, and we're going to get X over what we did last time. So I would say start small. Responsive is great. It's got fantastic reporting in it. Use it and be consistent. Whatever you decide to do, whether it's monthly or quarterly, stick with that cadence. And then over time, I think what you'll see is you've demonstrated your value. Um, to not only the people you report to, but then your C-suite, who uh, it's a super valuable function, right? Like I get told all the time that we'd be dead in the water without you, DeeAnn. Um, you know, but you have to get in front of them, right? And part of getting in front of them is being able to deliver the metrics.
Yeah, that's really wonderful. I think proposal teams in our industry is going through an interesting shift. We're starting to become more seen and respected, and I love what you say about show them the data. You know, numbers don't lie. So that's a really wonderful tip. Thank you.
From my end, Sasha, it would be I'm actually one of those probably leaders that doesn't get into the minutia of it, right? I have a job of let's get the RFP. That's a massive win if we get an RFP, okay? Because that means we have an opportunity to win something large. There are very few of them, but when we do get them, they are all hands on deck, and you have to pull. Here's what I would say: it's the fact that the executives don't even see it anymore, right? They don't even know. That's how I measure it. I measure it as got it. They didn't even hear about it because we're only going to the 4 or 5 different subject matter experts that we need, right, to look at it. We've created this funnel that it's so tight that once we get it, we have the content, we have the 3 4 people we go to. Everybody in the organization is now completely it's off their radar. First time ever. When an RFP used to come in, it was everybody had to dive in. Now they can just keep doing whatever they're doing now. Golfing.
Less RFPs, more golf. Got it. That's great, Brian. Yeah, thank you for sharing. It really sounds like you've done great things with your team and have just kind of created a really nice process internally to really just, streamline everything that you guys are doing with your proposals and keep it off of multiple C-level desks, which is always appreciated, I'm sure. So, one final question for each of you. What is your team's North Star? I feel like it's even more important for smaller teams to really have that guiding light and focus on what's important. So, what is it for your organizations?
So for me, it's twofold. We have two kind of guiding principles. The first one is make yes easy. And that applies to customers. When we return a response to customers, I want them to go, how about today? Like we have so fully answered everything that they've asked. But not only that, we've gone above and beyond to provide them with the information that they need to know that they've been heard and that their problem is actually going to be solved. So we're in a space where there's huge risk of your website being broken into, and there's lots of security concerns around that. And some companies have had a breach and they've struggled with that, and so they're coming to us saying, okay, I need you to hear me because we've had problems in the past. How are you going to be different? How are you going to solve this problem? And so for me, it's make yes easy is the first one. We want them to just read what we put out and then be like, yes, we are signing on the dotted line. That also applies to sales, and our sales and our CS organization. We want to make sure that we're being accurate and that we're providing excellent work back to them so that it makes it easy for them. We don't want them to have to spend time doing things that, aren't directly related to relationship building, or quote generating for the customer, right? So the second guiding principle for us is get out of the way. Sales is like a freight train here. They move at amazing speeds, and they do a great job. And we have we have loads and loads of customers, and we're growing by leaps and bounds. The last thing I want to do is be an impediment to sales. The last thing I want someone to say is, well, we didn't close the deal because we're stuck in RFP, or I'm waiting on a security questionnaire, right? Like that can't happen. That just can't. It, for me, like I don't think I could live with that if I derailed this this bullet train that just kind of takes over. So those are the two for us: make yes easy and stay out of the way. Do whatever it takes. And that includes things like sometimes our sales staff can be slightly picky. I love them all, but they can be slightly picky. So for me, when it's, don't get in the way, it's kind of thinking ahead on those things, right? And providing a package that all they have to do is hit forward, or, all they have to do is download, attach to an email, and it's off, right? So yeah, those would be the two: make yes easy and don't get in the way.
Those are great. Thank you, DeeAnn. Brian, what about you? What is your team's North Star?
Well, our mission is to dominate markets that we're in, and then be the trusted advisor. So we have people out there that will affect if your lights are on or not, right? Like we are walking rights away, analyzing any vegetation, specifically trees. If a storm comes through, like it did here in Northeast Ohio last night, and trees went down, did we walk that right away to make sure that that tree was removed, right? So people have to trust us with what we're doing. Or did we get that smart meter, that gas meter? Is there a leak? Did we do that correctly? So people have to trust us. So we want to be the trusted advisor, and we also want to dominate on the markets that we serve. And fulfilling RFPs in a timely manner allow people to trust you, right? That's step one. Did you respond to my request? Did you do it quickly? I can trust you, right? So it all goes into that. So those are the two big ones for ACRT services family of companies.
Thank you both so much for joining us today at Summit and sharing your experiences with what it's like to meet the needs that your organizations face while having smaller teams. I personally learned a lot, and I just feel that you truly both demonstrated how powerful small proposal teams can be. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Sasha.
Thanks, Sasha.